Live from the monumentously impressive and always professional Fuck If I Know Studios, located in beautiful downtown Hamlin, Pennsylvania, it is yet another edition of Frank the Lunatic Rant. Hey there, hi there, ho there, everybody. From the wonderful Fuck If I Know Studios located in wonderful downtown Hamlin, Pennsylvania, I am your congenial host, Frank the Lunatic, with another edition of Frank the Lunatic Rants. Whether you like it or not, you're the one who accidentally clicked play. How is everyone doing today? Today I've got a rant, piss, and moan about a couple of things. One of which, of course, is something that near and dear to my heart yet again. The wonderful advent of electric vehicles. Right, as everyone knows, if you followed my podcast, you know I am no big fan of electric vehicles whatsoever. Not at all. Not a fan of them, especially because of the price. There is no affordability in them whatsoever. And they're only going to keep going up and up in price because statistically, I don't care what any car manufacturer says. I don't even care what President Jumpin' Joe Magoo says, that they'll come down in price as they become available more. Bullshit. That does not happen in the auto industry. And I will tell you why, in case you just can't figure it out for yourself. Most of these autos, at least the ones made by Ford, Chrysler, and GM, are all UAW workers. The way their contracts are, they get raises. Everything happens in steps. How do the companies afford these raises? Well, naturally, they pass the cost on to the consumer, so it raises the price of the car. Statistically, the average car for sale in the United States increases in sticker price by $1,200 to $1,500 a year on the average. Some of your more luxury cars actually go up as high as $2,000 more each model year. Even though things really don't improve on them, that's the best part. A lot of things that people don't understand when they run out, of course, and buy these new gas vehicles, or any vehicle for that matter. You know, oh, okay, I got to run out and buy the 2021. No, you don't. Car companies already have on their drawing boards how long they intend to run a certain line production with a certain appearance on the car. A lot of models of cars can go a good 5 years before they actually do any major changes in the car at all. Some of them even go as long as 8 years. A lot of times the changes they do during those spans are minor cosmetic changes. It could be something simple as changing the taillights. Some of it is just a difference of trim, you know, what they're doing on the outside around the windows maybe, just to make the appearance look different. And even interior-wise, a lot of times nothing really changes on the car except for maybe the color options or the accessory type of trim that's used to accent the car. Nothing that would really justify raising the price of the car that much, but they do it. The other thing people don't realize is that the vehicle that you're buying that's so-called brand new is new, but not new. They stockpile parts. They know that they sell on the average so many of these models every year, and they calculate that there's going to be a certain loss where a model isn't going to sell as much as time goes by. And they factor all that in, and they come up with a plan, and they make all these parts, and they stockpile them. For example, your tail light, the headlights, bumpers, interior parts, knobs, all this stuff is all stockpiled. So that car that you just bought for 2020 or 2021, a good portion of the components, especially the engine, could have been made 5 years ago, could have been made even longer than that, and has just been sitting. Yes, your car was made now, it was assembled now. However, it was not made now. Those parts were created in factories several years back when the labor was cheaper, of course, for the manufacturer, and quite possibly the raw materials to make those parts were cheaper. So that increases how much money they're making off of you, plus the fact that they raise the price at least $1,200 each year. So you factor all that in, that 2020 vehicle you bought that might have parts that were actually manufactured in 2015, you add in those savings to the manufacturer, And the fact that they're charging you so much more, that vehicle is now maybe $5,000 more than it was 5 years ago, quite possibly. You factor all that in, and you discover that you're actually getting ripped off. You're not buying a new car. You're buying a brand new car in, I'm going to say, physically, in a sense that it was assembled new and it hasn't been driven. But is the car really new? No, the parts are actually old, and most people don't realize that because we, again, are stupid American consumers. We really are. And we really don't compare pricing in that. If we want it, we turn around and we get it because, after all, we finance everything to death. But anyway, regardless of that, the price of the cars do not go down. Labor goes up, and of course, the cost of raw materials go up. So when they start rolling out with all these models of electric cars, and they're going to turn and say the price is coming down, no way is it coming down at all. And don't expect many model changes either. They create some form of aesthetic design for these electric cars, or try making them futuristic looking and that. And that's their goal for several years, to keep that design, not really change anything, maybe interior wise, change the appearance of some things. But electrical cars are so complicated, EV cars are so complicated, that things have to be done a certain way. You can't do major changes in the model because of how wires have to be run, how all these systems have to be integrated in. It's more complex than a mechanical car, where you can, you have more flexibility to move things around. Remember, you're limited on EVs on space because of how much space the battery system takes up. And the onboard computers, there are so many computers on EV vehicles, it isn't funny. It's not just one brain box running everything. You have an entire car now that is, for lack of a better phrase, 100% drive-by-wire. There are more electrical systems involved on this, which of course also what raises the price of the car as well. So don't expect the cars to come down anytime soon in price. That's all let's say fake news, I guess you can say, fake reassurances, and to have our president going out there and literally saying, in quotes, that these prices are going to come down as people start buying. Really, the White House is going to say that now? There's something really wrong with that, because they can't make a manufacturer lower the price of their vehicles at all. And it's not going to happen. They are not going to go down in price. Granted, to attract people, yeah, you may see some companies, as there's more competition out there for Tesla. Yeah, you might see some companies, as more models are introduced, run better incentives, make it appear like they're dropping the price because they're running incentives. They didn't actually drop the manufacturer retail price of the car. They're running incentives, but don't expect anything significant. And it sounds like the Cupcake Twins are tweaking around with the soundboard again. Sounds like they put a little more reverb back in there. So for those of you wondering, that's why it sounds a little bit different. They're fooling around with things for some reason. Anyway, getting back to the EV vehicles. They talk about range and affordability and how these things are going to be great for the environment and such. And I've always said that the range for an affordable vehicle, that the average person, if you are a lower working class family like I am, you can't afford these $50,000 electric vehicles. And I'll be damned before I sit my ass in something like a Nissan Leaf, well, actually any Nissan product ever again, after the problems I had with Nissan, never again. But even some of the smaller Chevy ones, they're not feasible. They're great if you live in a city. If you live in a rural area like me, they're not feasible whatsoever. When, you have to commute to get to stores and such, they're not feasible. There's this whole thing about, we're going to put charging stations. This is what the President Magoo wants to do. Really? What, are you going to put them up here in the rural areas or along these, mountainous rural routes? No, you're not. So your range, you live in Pennsylvania, the rural areas of Pennsylvania, or go to West Virginia, mountainous areas, you're going to be limited, because when you have mountains and hill, that's more strain on the motor systems. You're sucking up. They're enticing people with the mileage. You can go so many miles. That's mileage that has been proven on a test track which is flat. This is not the proven results driving in mountainous terrain, driving in bad weather, up and down hills, stop and go traffic. Remember, stop and go traffic, guess what? Your EV is still running. It's still running. It's not like the Prius. It's not a back and forth system like that. You're limiting your range. Yes, on a straightaway, on a highway, yeah, you probably could get that many miles based on your speed. But again, in bad weather, you're living in a rural area, you're living in parts of Pennsylvania and Virginia, some places that have dirt roads and stone roads. You need more traction and torque out of your vehicle. That affects the performance. But anyhow, there was a thing about the Nissan Leaf that I just recently read, because people who have been suckered in by advertising over the last several years to purchase Nissan Leafs, which I believe Nissan Leafs been out probably about 8 years now, I believe. People at Nissan Leafs have discovered the hard way that the range sucks on them. You can't take any trips with your family. First of all, how you're squeezing your family into a Nissan Leaf for a trip beats the hell out of me. Maybe for a day trip, but there is no storage at all in a Nissan Leaf. Unless you plan on wearing the same clothes for a couple of days, there's not much packing you can do when it comes to a Nissan Leaf. With that said, of course, owners have been upset and have been complaining because, they discovered, unlike all the marketing, all this hoo-ha about these vehicles, that in the real world, they are not realistic. If you're traveling, if you plan on doing any type of vacation traveling with your family, they are not realistic. So what are they doing? Not looking for ways of improving the battery capacity, because there's no way you can do that, because a electric vehicle, your chassis is your battery. The smaller the car, the less of a battery, the less of a charge it holds, the less of a range you can go. And what's Nissan's solution? They're going to give Leaf owners, if you're a new Leaf owner, it sucks to be you. If you are an existing Leaf owner, you're SOL. So if you're a new Leaf owner, you went out and just bought a 2020 or 2021, they're going to give you a $350 credit. Oh boy, that you can use to rent a vehicle if you want to go on vacation or have to take a trip somewhere. Oh boy, they're calling it, and their catchphrase for this whole thing, they're calling it, own the car you want and book the car you need. Well, it's showing you right there that a car manufacturer who's making an EV vehicle is actually admitting that you can't use your electric vehicle to go far, to go on trips. And that's why they're offering this credit to try getting you to buy the car. And if you buy the car, here's some money that you can rent a vehicle with, which only does you good, maybe that first time around. After that, you're going to be SOL ever going on a trip anywhere with your electric vehicle. So you're always going to have to rent a vehicle. So it still comes to, what is the point then? What exactly is the point? You buy an EV vehicle now, and you're still going to have to rent a car to go on a trip. What does that do, by the way, for the future of car rentals? You have an EV car, and in 13, 14 years, nothing is going to be out there but EVs. And I know some of the rental companies have already said in the next couple of years they're transforming most of their fleet to EV vehicles. So what does that do for you? You rent a car because you don't want to put the mileage on your own vehicle, first of all. And now you're going to be renting an EV vehicle, which only has so far of a range, unless, of course, you spend the extra money, so it's going to cost you even more money to rent a vehicle, to rent something like a big SUV or pickup truck that would actually have the range. So again, when it comes to the market of rental cars, you're going to be screwed, because you're not going to be able to take a trip with a rental car either, unless you rent a big enough a vehicle, which is probably something bigger than what you need because of the battery capacity. Because along the way, first of all, you're not going to know where these charging stations and that are. So you got to go out of your way on your trip to find charging stations. And then don't forget, you have to stop and spend money to charge up this vehicle for whatever the limit would be. It could be an hour, 3 hours, whatever it is, to get the vehicle back up and running until you get to the next one. So in other words, it's almost like being back in the pioneer days. It's going to take you forever to make that trip to Florida, basically, because you're going to be stopping all the time. That brings in another topic in regards to the hospitality industry. There's nothing that says these hotels and motels should put in charging stations. I'm going to see that eventually happening, where they're going to have to put in charging stations for every single parking space they have on their facility, which is going to cost a fortune because the money they have to invest, plus the upgrading of their electrical systems in order to handle that much voltage going through their facilities, which of course is going to raise the price of rooms, because after all, somebody has to pay for that. And then the fact that what they're going to charge you, because they're going to look to make a profit off of it. So you're not going to be paying the same rate that you would be paying at home to charge your electric vehicle. You're going to be paying a hell of a lot more. So trips are going to become more and more expensive to take as well. Getting back to Nissan, the director of their electric vehicle marketing had said, quote, in regards to this program, quote, Nissan understands our Leaf customers, and we know that there are times when they may need a different vehicle for specific occasions. With this offer, Leaf owners get a great electric vehicle that suits their everyday driving, but if they want a different vehicle to help move or take a large family on a road trip, Nissan and Toro, whoever Toro is giving them options. Fiat, for example, I think is doing possibly something with their electric Fiat 500e, which again is another vehicle that has an extremely low range. I guess Fiat is or was offering 12 free rental cars days per year. Again, that's defeating the purpose. You're going to sit there and say that, okay, this is the future. We have to have electric vehicles, and this is the way to go, which is completely great if you live in Sweden or Norway or wherever the hell that country is, that Crybaby Girl about the global environment. I can't remember her name. That won like the Crybaby of the Year award or something a couple of years ago. She was some student. In those countries, yeah, maybe these vehicles work out because A, your country isn't that big. Sorry, hate to say it, but it's true. How much vacationing do people really do? How far do they really drive? Or you live on an island or something? Again, it shows that manufacturers and our own government does not understand American people, that there's no way these vehicles are going to work out. And you're showing it by saying, hey, we're going to give you some free rental time for a gas vehicle, which is going to show that you are going to need gasoline vehicles. Because unless you find a way, and it's right now with the technology, it is impossible, completely impossible to develop a battery for these systems that have equivalent ranges. If you want to say a 500-mile range, 400-mile range, that you can have that across the board. It's not like that. The smaller the vehicle, the smaller the range. The more weight you have in the vehicle as well, the less of a range you get. And again, it's almost like they're failing the whole truth in advertising when it comes to EVs. You're going to say you get this much range. Yes. Okay. And that's whatever they say the statistical average person is. Now let's face the truth. Most of America is not average, especially if they say this country has an obesity problem. Okay, fine. You're someone who weighs 300 pounds. That car is going to get less of a range on it than someone who weighs 125 pounds. Pickup truck. Okay, great. It has this range. Now you're a contractor and you've got the bed full of stuff, or you're pulling a trailer. That's going to strain the system even more. And I'd love to see the future of the recreational industry as well. When it comes to trailers and RVs, what are you going to do? Pull along RV? That's not going to happen anymore. With an electric vehicle, that truck, even if it has the amount of torque, you're shortening the life of your engine, of an electrical engine. It's just like turning on a fan, a window fan in your house. Every second that motor is running, you are decreasing the life in that motor. The same holds true with EV vehicles. When you get stuff like gasoline engines, yes, there's a life to them, but you can extend that life. There's things you can do to it. Electric vehicles, there isn't. You're looking at a self-contained, motor system. The minute you start that vehicle and you start going and applying torque, you're degrading the performance and the livelihood of that entire system until it eventually dies. Well, you're towing a trailer, you're towing an RV. You're applying a lot of pressure to that system. You're degrading the system. You're limiting how long that system is going to last. Last. They're not stressing that to American people at all because they want you to buy these vehicles. President Magoo wants you to buy these vehicles. Vice President Harassment wants you to buy these vehicles. That whiny little bitch in whatever country it is that was crying her eyes out about global warming, she wants you to buy these vehicles as well. Only thing I can think of is that they all have stock in these companies because these vehicles are just a no-go. They are not a realistic alternative in the American car market. They do not fit into the American lifestyle. They don't. You're basically looking at a future where you will not be taking vacations by car because you just can't get there, or you can't get there in time. It takes you longer, which costs you even more money. I was reading an article where the author of the article, in regards to this Nissan Leaf thing, said that they had to take a trip. I think he said it was over 1,000-mile trip, and they did the whole EV thing. And he basically said his wife was ready to kill him. They had frequent problems because of, I guess, temperature. I guess this would have been last summer, maybe, or something. They said he's saying there's frequent heat problems. All you can think of is the air conditioning system doesn't work the greatest because you're dealing on an electrical air conditioning system versus a mechanical system like you have in cars now. He spent a lot of time at level 2 charging stations, so they had to throw 2 extra hotel nights and stays along the way so they wouldn't get stranded, so they would be able to charge a vehicle. And they spent one night sleeping in their electric vehicle at an RV park because of how long of a duration they had to charge. I guess they weren't going to make it to the next charging station, so I guess they had to plug in the car there or something, to a regular outlet or something. Saying, the car went anywhere we wanted to, but it was a miserable experience, and he wouldn't wish it on people that hate him the most. And that's the truth. That's what's going to happen with these EV vehicles. We're going to be looking at a lifestyle of this, a big lifestyle change in America in regards to forcing us to have EV vehicles. That the range just isn't there. Well, they say the range is there. Yes, the range is there if you're going to turn around and you're going to buy some big behemoth of a vehicle. For example, look at the new Hummer that's coming out, which actually looks really nice. It actually looks sort of like the old Hummer. It's an EV vehicle. $70,000, which actually, when you compare it to what a Hummer cost back then, this is in comparison to, I think, an H2, which back then, I think the H2s were about $50,000 anyway. So when you take into account that the Hummer hasn't been around in at least a decade, well, yeah, that would add about $10,000 or more onto the price because of labor cost and that going up. But anyhow, they were saying how that vehicle, realistically, that vehicle has a very long range, but it's an extremely heavy vehicle. And the minute you go and you try towing anything with it, that's even more weight added onto that vehicle. But then it was funny because the article I read was saying, that it's too fast. Consumer Reports, all these places are calling it too fast because it goes 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or 4 seconds. And that's too fast because, that means somebody who just got their driver's license is going to be able to drive a super fast vehicle. You show me somebody who just got their driver's license who can afford a $70,000 vehicle. Oh no, maybe it wasn't $70,000. I'm going to have to relook the article. Maybe it was $90,000 for the Hummer. Maybe it was 90. Either way, you show me a person who just got their license that has the ability to go out and buy something that expensive. The only people I can see driving like that, a vehicle like that, is some of your entitlement kids who have families with money who go out and buy one of those vehicles. That's the only time I can actually see it. But anyhow, if you want the range, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at being forced to buy a vehicle that big in order to achieve that range. Now, President Magoo, forgot myself for a second. I guess they are looking to put a bill in, some reform bill for federal electric car tax incentives. It's passed the Senate. This increases the electric vehicle tax credit up to $12,500. But there's a lot of stipulations in regards to it. And remember, that's up to $12,500. $12,500. Well, first of all, they haven't decided what form this credit's going to take. If it's a tax credit, nobody seems to know what form that's going to take. They said the $12,500 isn't for everyone, though. There's up to a $7,500 incentive. It would be increased to $10,000 if your electric car is produced in the United States. So, there are a lot of vehicles that are. And up to $12,500 if it's by union workers. So in other words, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, because Hyundai and Kia and Honda and Mazda, their plants in the United States, are not UAW members. So this is going to show you how they're in bed with the freaking unions, first of all, this administration. So if you're buying a car that comes from a union company, you'll get up to $12,500. And again, that's up to. It doesn't mean you're getting $12,500. You're getting up to. They're also saying something in regards to Tesla. Teslas won't qualify because its workforce is not UAW, so you can't get that particular big tax credit on those vehicles at all because they're not union workers. So all the Tesla owners can go wow, 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 or the potential Tesla owners can go wow, 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 because they will not get the tax credit because their vehicle is not made by union workers. I don't understand what fucking difference that makes if it's a union shop or not. So that's your way of saying, well, you got to buy from the big three. We'll give you more of a tax credit to buy a vehicle that's going to cost more because it's made by union workers. And they're saying, okay, with all these incentives, and if your state gives an incentive, you might be able, when you apply that big incentive on a union vehicle, that was at the $12,500, you might be able to actually get an electric vehicle for, say, $30,000. But nobody knows how this incentive's coming. If the incentive is some form of tax credit you get the end of the year, okay, well, you're still financing a $30,000 car, which is harder for a working class person to be able to get approved on a loan for, first of all. For right out there, it's harder to get approved for it because you are lower working class, you probably don't have the highest credit score, and you don't make the money to afford the payments on a $30,000 vehicle. You figure a $30,000 vehicle, you're looking at payments of $600 and something a month. That's ridiculous on top of mortgage or rent and insurance and everything. So again, it's a program just for the rich. And as for the incentives, even a tax incentive, the government's not giving you $12,500 back. That's my understanding of it. You'll get $12,500 off your taxes, which is great. Okay, so you're somebody who normally gets like $6,000 back, say, because you get the earned income credit because you are lower working class. All right, you basically already are getting back all of your taxes. So the incentive doesn't actually apply to you. You can apply it on there, but you don't have any tax liability because you have kids in your lower working class. So you already get the most back you can get, which is basically all of your tax money back. These incentives, again, are designed for the middle class or, people with money, because people that are middle class, IRS definitions, you're making 50-something thousand a year, So you're someone making $50,000-$60,000 a year. Yeah, you're paying more in taxes, so you don't get the earned income credit because your income's too high. So yes, you'll get to knock $12,000 off your taxes, so you'll get something back. You're still probably never actually getting $12,000. That's unheard of. You're not going to get that much back. But, again, it's an incentive program that they're going to market out there to people to make people think that this is what I'm going to get. No, you're not getting $12,000 back from the government. You're going to be getting that off your taxes, and you're not getting it off the price of the car. The manufacturer isn't going to sit there. The car dealer isn't going to sit there and sell you that car that, for $25,000, $30,000, say $30,000, that normally retails for, say, $40,000. They're not going to do that. They're not going to take a loss on that and have to wait to get the money back. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to finance the whole thing. That's how that goes. So it's a lose-lose freaking situation if you are lower working class. Once again, showing that these electric vehicles aren't meant for people like us. We're meant to drive the little box of bolts, small little vehicles like the Mini Coopers that have a big 110-mile range on it. And that would be the closest thing to an affordable EV vehicle right now. I think that's like 20, the heck is that? 20-something thousand. I knew the price. It's close to, I think, 30,000, I believe. Which is in comparison the price of a small SUV, or, it's, which way do you want to go? A vehicle that's not going to get you anywhere, or a vehicle that's going to take you somewhere and work out in the wintertime? Because again, if you live in colder climates, you live in Northeast PA, guess what? You have a Mini Cooper, you ain't going anywhere. You're playing Minnie Mouse. You're staying at home when the bad weather happens. You ain't getting to work. Therefore, you're not making your car payment. Therefore, your car goes bye-bye. So the incentive, to me personally, is ridiculous. It's not an incentive. It's an incentive there for people with money. And with EV vehicles, there's still that issue of the charging. Where do you charge it? And they said 80% of EV owners do their charging at home overnight. And generally it means you come home from work, You plug your vehicle in, you let it sit all night. So don't plan on going anywhere. Don't plan on going anywhere. Don't be, an on-call first responder or anything because you got to unplug your car in the middle of the night. It might not be fully charged. Anyhow, so fine, your car's ready to go the next morning. They're marking it as, well, see how convenient it is to charge. But there's a lot of things to consider. First of all is the weather. It's a known scientific fact, something that a lot of us have been probably taught in school when we were younger, that the cold affects batteries. Cold batteries, first of all, charge more slower than warm batteries. That's for starters right there. You come, you park your car, the whole system cools down, you're parking it, going to charge it up. Unless you're somebody dumb enough and rich enough to actually heat your garage, your battery's going to be dead cold when it's, 10 degrees outside in Northeast PA. Your battery's thermal management system draws energy from your charger to warm the battery, slowing down the charging because it's drawing the energy that would be used to charge the battery to keep the system warm so it could try charging the battery. So in conditions, at freezing, below freezing, they've tested these vehicles and have showed your charging times are 3 to 4 times that of being in warmer temperatures. So again, imagine being here in Northeast PA, while we're not the coldest place in the United States. Imagine being here in Northeastern PA and, our typical January where it's 10 degrees out, and you go out in the morning and discover you barely have enough charge to make it to work because it's taking 4 times longer for your car to charge. Do you know what that represents? 3 to 4 times longer? Do you even understand the math on that? If it's going 4 times slower, which means it's longer, if it normally takes all night, that basically means at that temperature, statistically, I guess mathematically, you're looking at like 3 days to charge your vehicle up, keeping it plugged in during those temperatures. So don't plan on going to work for 3 to 4 days. Welcome to the future. Thank you, Jumpin' Joe Magoo. But heat also has effect in the charging times. You're out in Arizona, 110 degrees. The battery's thermal management system slows down the charging speeds to protect the battery because of the outside heat and how much heat gets generated by the charging system. So again, it takes you longer to charge your car if you were in somewhere like Arizona, these places where they want to push these vehicles because, big open roads, no hills and stuff like that. Well, it's going to take you longer when you live in Phoenix and you're experiencing 110 degree heat with 130 degree heat index trying to charge your vehicle because the charging system, to keep itself cool, restricts the amount of energy flowing through it. So it takes longer to charge. And even capacity, you want batteries on cars bigger than 200 miles. If you do develop a bigger battery, which means that you would have to actually raise the height of the car to increase the depth of the chassis to fit a big enough battery under there, because remember, your charging system is your chassis basically, okay, which adds more weight onto the vehicle, which degrades your performance a lot over time, and that also means longer charging times. The bigger the battery, the longer it takes to charge. The longer you have to wait to go somewhere. The Nissan Leaf that I was talking about earlier, battery capacity size, it has one of the smallest out there. It's a 40 kilowatt per hour battery, as opposed to something like, I guess like the Tesla that has an 80, so twice. So when, again, when they're marketing all these things to you, well, yeah, okay, Tesla charges quicker because Tesla's got a bigger freaking battery, because the Tesla is a bigger car. That and the fact that if you have over $5,000 to spend on the better charging system to install in your house, you can charge your Tesla up with like a 480 volt system as opposed to the 280 volt. I guess that would be a Series 2, a level 2 charger, I guess. I think level 1 is a regular 110. And the other issue is charging. Remember, the more volts going in, that's like a cell phone. You burn the batteries out quicker. Level 1 is your normal 120 volt, your 110, 120 volt, 15 amp wall outlet. And on an EV card, it's basically a trickle charge. You basically get 3 to 4 miles charge per hour. So if you had the Nissan Leaf, the Mini Cooper, or I'm trying to remember who's down in that range, the Kia Niro, I think the Hyundai Kona is roughly in that same range as well. If you had a level 1 charger, which is plugging it into your home, it would take you 22 hours to charge that battery fully if you've actually drained it to the e-warning, basically, from driving a lot. I mean, it rarely happens that you completely drain your battery, but that's to show you how long it would take. Which also means, realistically, if you used half your travel time, so you're basically, in a sense, half a tank full, it would take you 11 hours plugged into your hotel or plugged into your house in order to charge that vehicle up fully. A level 2 charger, which is the 240 to 280 volt system, I believe, that you're looking at a comparison of about 18 miles of range per hour, which is a little bit better. It's basically the same type of socket that you use to use your clothes dryer. Now imagine your electricity on that. Go ahead. I want you, especially a lot of you have smart meters on your home. You can go online and actually see how much electric you're using. Okay, I want you to run your dryer. See how much electric that takes. Now I want you to run your dryer, let's say for 6 hours straight, 8 hours, to give enough charge to your electric vehicle so you can actually take a trip. Now do the math, see how much you just spent on electric. Then of course, there's the level 3 fast chargers. Those are the ones that, depending on manufacturer, are anywhere up to 600 volts actually. And they're those systems that it costs you at least $5,000 for the system, plus you have to have an electrician install it, and that. It's expensive to be able to get your car to charge faster, but you still didn't save anything because you're just drawing the electricity faster. You're still drawing the same amount of electricity as you would from a level 1 charger. It's just a shorter charging time, but you're still drawing more amps and volts. So you're still basically paying the same. Look at Chevy Bolt. The Chevy Bolt, not the Volt, not with a V, a Bolt with a B. That takes 9 hours to charge from a level 2 charger. 9 hours. So how realistic are these things? They're forcing these things down our throats, but again, they are not realistic whatsoever. And this, unfortunately, is the future that we're looking at. It's truly sad that we are being forced, as Americans, we will not have freedom of choice when it comes to buying vehicles. You are basically being told that in 10 years, be on the lookout, start saving your money, because you have no choice but to buy an electric vehicle, whether you like it or not, whether you can afford it or not. Once again, wonderful Democrat thinking there, because after all, the Democrats are always on the side of the poor, aren't they? Yep, because that's what they profess. And if they state that, then it must be true. Just like everything you see on YouTube. If it's on YouTube, then it must be true. Very sad future we have ahead of us, people. Truly sad. I take someone like myself, for example. When these vehicles come out, there's no way I can afford one. I'm going to be too old to afford one. Anyway, I am Frank the Lunatic, as always. I approve this message, and that, for now, my friends, is all I have to say about that.
Oh, thank you.
Birthday card, birthday card, birthday card, birthday card, birthday card, I get birthday card. Birthdays are the best ever. Do you like birthdays? I like birthday cakes. Do you? And birthday.